Can we have the Honourable Mr. Marc Bean on the line with us, please? Guys, we are super honored today. We have not only a business leader, but also a political leader here with us today. I've looked at Marc's CV, and like, I honestly don't know within our time frame how to tell you guys about this extraordinary man. He's both politician and business owner. Marc, I'd love for you to just kind of introduce you to the entrepreneur audience that we have here today. Introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your journey, both in business and in politics on your side of the world. You can tell them where you're calling in from as well. And then we'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of just, leadership principles in entrepreneurship, and how do you build something less meaningful and relevant in this world. Over to you, sir.
Greetings, can you hear me?
Perfectly well, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Greetings to everyone, and good morning to those who are on my side of the world, and good afternoon to those who are in the area of South Africa. It is a distinct privilege and honor to be offered the opportunity to contribute to this conference, speaking specifically, I think, on leadership and entrepreneurship. As a little background to myself, I'm calling you now from Miami, Florida, but I am based between Miami, Nassau, Bahamas, and my home, which is Bermuda. And from Bermuda, I'm able to operate my company called Axum Limited, which is focused on technology, and specifically online gambling, online gaming, financial technology with an emphasis on the mobile money industry. And also we are looking to go to market soon with a gig economy app that will be able to connect persons who are looking for short-term opportunities with short-term or demand for labor of any sort. And so our group is very focused on the digital economy, especially now as we transition into a post-pandemic environment. In addition to technological focus, we also own and operate a law firm and a corporate service provider in Bermuda and in the Bahamas. And I was very interested and grateful to hear the previous speaker before the gentleman, Mr. Bullock. I forget her name, my apologies, but I got a glimpse of what she was saying, and I certainly agree and encourage the ideas that she was putting forward in terms of using structures to give entrepreneurs the flexibility to be efficient and effective in this post-pandemic environment, especially. As a background to myself personally, I am the son of one of Bermuda's longest serving farmers and fishermen. And so my roots are based on primary industry and entrepreneurship, and at the core, where if you don't put in, or what you put in is what you get out. If you don't work, you don't eat. And you must be able to have the ability and capacity to take risk. And so there's experiences as a young man coming up, which prepared me most importantly to enter into the business realm, and at the same time also to contribute at the public service realm as a political leader at some point in my time. But I do not allow politics to define me as a person. In fact, my spirit is very much on the free market side of things. So politics has its place, but it doesn't have that much of a place. And for me, in terms of the improvement of people's standard of living in Bermuda and around the world, I think that good, sound, ethical business principles and practices would be the ultimate solution over the long term. Now, in saying that as my brief introduction, I would speak to leadership, but leadership in this context. Let me make the distinction, especially now, I think is very important. Political leadership is not the same as business leadership. They couldn't be as different, unless as a business person, you are dependent on your proximity to the halls of political power. And that makes you basically what they call a crony capitalist, if you like. Okay, but for the majority of the people in the world who actually have to take risk then the leadership principles that are useful in politics are not the leadership principles that are useful in business. In business today, value is going to be found in leaders who recognize the value of their own teams, recognize their own limitations, and they apply themselves in practice with a high degree of self-discipline. Self-discipline is the seat of human power. And if you are going to develop a corporate culture which encourages innovation and creativity and enjoyment and happiness, then leadership has to be exemplified by those who are actually leading the entity. And exemplification of leadership comes through the most important component and characteristic of a leader, and that is having a very disciplined mind. Once you have a disciplined mind, you will have the requisite humility to be able to seek and acquire knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. It sounds simple. We all know what knowledge is, but do many of us recognize the wisdom of acquiring knowledge? The wisdom of knowledge is the experience of seeing that knowledge being manifested in your real life. But you know, there's something a little higher than that, more important than just acquiring the wisdom of your experience. And that is to understand the experiences of others and to put yourselves in the shoes of others. That is understanding. Now, as a leader, I think it's essential, because if you're going to develop a corporate culture that is innovation driven, then you have to make a decision whether or not you are going to be a micromanager or you are going to be a macro manager. In this post-pandemic world, we see the political environment becoming more and more micro by the day in every single environment, everywhere, more and more micro. Political leaders are seeking to really put their fingertips on every aspect of our lives. Today, I would say that the business leader needs to take the opposite approach, and that is to encourage freedom of expression and freedom of activity by those who work for you. Because without that top line corporate culture of innovation and creativity that can only come from a free spirit, then you're going to find yourself in the digital economy losing value and not being able to compete vis-a-vis other competitors who understand the value of giving people the freedom to be themselves. And so that is the type of approach I've taken in terms of how we shift and adjust our business practices since the global lockdown of COVID in March and April. We had to make some adjustments, and we had to become more open and let our team realize that, listen, as we go through these challenges, our dependency or reliance on you to be yourself becomes paramount. Do not depend on us to give you or do something that you can do for yourself. Now, at the same time, in giving them that freedom, they also have to be willing to give that reciprocated respect, where it doesn't require the degree of minute control on their daily activities to allow them to be innovative. So it's got to be mutually beneficial. And that requires the cultivation of a spirit and culture within your organization that, again, people feel that they are part of and they are happy to participate in, whether it's done remotely or within an office environment. So I would say that I'm just got a little one or two notes, excuse me. Going forward, as entrepreneurs, we have to decide in terms of how we go about developing our teams and this leadership idea in this post-pandemic world. We are going to have to decide what are going to be the core strategies to create that good vibe within your and high productivity within your workforce. And again, it comes with having this understanding of developing synergy and looking for persons within the group who can work as best as they can with one another as a team. And that requires, again, your example. How do you encourage people to interact with one another? How do you encourage them to be innovative? And how do you encourage them to respect their colleagues' innovation and energy and creativity? In other words, you cooperate in order to be competitive. That is the corporate culture that's required, I feel, to navigate into this 21st century post-COVID environment. The last step, I would say also, most importantly, is that there is a need for, I mentioned self-discipline. I would encourage leaders to take time for yourself. Take time to meditate. Take time to study. Take time to think. Take time to seek and project your mind, not for today, but think about what's going to happen next year and in 3 years' time. Strategically, but practical. You must stay ahead of your vessel. From a pilot's perspective, a good airplane pilot is always 100 miles ahead of his aircraft or her aircraft. Likewise, a good business leader and entrepreneur must always be ahead of where their business is. So they have to anticipate. They have to have an erudite idea or a vision of where they want to take their company and how they can navigate their company in a post-COVID environment that's going to have all sorts of external risk thrust upon you that's going to require you to have flexibility and vision to navigate. And so I think for us in Bermuda, we are facing the same challenge that you're facing in South Africa and Mauritius and in the United States. And it's going to require not a desire to be more controlling as political leadership are starting to exemplify around the world, arrogantly so. But I think that we need as business people to seek to go the opposite direction and extend as much freedom within your teams and within your business. So innovation will create the value that you seek in the future.
Sure. Wow. Mark, thank you so much. I mean, I've made a ton of notes on this side, as I'm sure all of our participants definitely had. Thank you for that kind of just that reminder on, how important the team and the culture of innovation is. I think, allowing your people the freedom to innovate, to grow the business is definitely a really good point. And I loved kind of the principle of self-discipline in this time you mentioned. Like, as we see the COVID numbers still climbing worldwide, it's kind of not people have spoken about now that COVID is over, like, COVID is still growing. 2021 is like starting to become, more and more looking like 2020 did, and even potentially worse. So I think, that discipline of how can you make this a long game? How can you, take care of yourself to, in terms of meditation and balance, but also find that time to be able to do that forward thinking work that you need to be doing to, where's the world going? Where's your company going? Where must you as a leader go, that you can reflect and understand the limitations within yourself or within your organization and how to really attack that. So yeah, I think so many good lessons. Thank you for all of that. And thank you for your precious time. We super appreciate it.
Hey, Lau here, one of the founders of Outsource CFO. If you enjoyed this video, make it official. Click subscribe.